I'll just talk while we're working on the, oh, here it comes back again, okay. So I wanted to say welcome everybody, thank you again. As you know, I get thank you notes from the presenters and when they come because they enjoy the event so much and enjoy an engaged audience. And so I thank all of you guys for making Levy Series what it is. I think it's a great social event and we learn something, we have some great food, and it's fulfilling our expectations of what we want to do here. And I want to also let you know, some of you who enjoy the Greenfield series as well, this registration is still ongoing. It's happening starting next Monday, and we have some brochures out front by the registration table. And our program, this is our second to last one, so we have one more, August 9th, and that's Jonathan Pollock. He's talking about the Industrial Removal Office, an interesting name. I don't know what the origins of the idea of the name was, but it's an organization in the early 1900s that helped. CIO. Okay. And it moved people around the United States and actually into Canada, and they interviewed people with potential jobs and had Jewish immigrants come and work through that office to settle and find jobs and find homes and places throughout the United States. So that's coming up on August 9th. There's still places if you want to register for that. And also I want to let you know that we did upload videos, so I'll put a link in the Jewish News in our electronic newsletter about a link to the first lecture, which was a Texas perspective on Jewish culture and life in southern United States, so that you can look at the slides for that if you want, and we'll have also he answered some questions and I wrote that down, so we'll have links to that, and also a video of Rabbi David Kopstein's talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls. And thank you to Ken, we'll put this up there too. And so we're learning how to do that, and hopefully that goes well. And now we'll announce also in August, at the end of August, we'll have an annual barbecue, and we'll have some information next time about that. So with that, I wanted to also say thanks to all the staff. And I want Kai Gardner-Mishlov to come up and say hello and welcome all of you to the Levy Series as well.
Shalom everyone, thank you so much for coming. This is such a treat. The Levy Series is so important to us. I want to thank everyone for supporting it. This is a wonderful opportunity for lifelong learners to come and connect with various scholars and artists around Jewish topics and other topics. So thank you very much. I want to thank our staff for organizing this. I want to especially thank Paul Borowski, which he was just up there. I want to thank Jim Mackman, Development in the back. I want to thank Kate Schenker, one of our social workers from JSS. I also want to thank Chris Shanahan, our Associate Director of JSS. Rabbi Renee Bauer, Spiritual Life Director. Jacob Heineman, our Office Manager and Communications Specialist. And Jacob is also a klezmer musician, among other things. So I just want to say, last Rosh Hashanah, I had the treat and really the opportunity that I really cherished, where I went to Williamsburg and I got to see the klezmer scene up front and personal. I attended a ritual concert of various Jewish musicians at the home of the incredible violinist Jake Schulman, who I know is a colleague of Annette and Kurt. So, and there was also a recent article recently about the Midwood section of Brooklyn and how important it is to the klezmer music scene. So please look that up. And I want to welcome Kurt and Annette for coming today, and I want to thank all of you for attending as well. And I want to introduce Jacob, who will introduce our musicians. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I've met a lot of you. I've been the office manager here at JSS for around a year. But what you may not know is before I was at JSS, I lived in Chicago, and I was actually, I played a double bass, and I performed with Kurt and Annette while I lived in Chicago. Their group is called Duo Controverso, and I would join up, and we call ourselves Trio Controverso. They're friends of mine, and I just want to say how lucky we are to have them here in Madison. Both of these musicians are absolutely world class, and that is not an exaggeration. Many of you know klezmer music is the Jewish instrumental music of sort of the old world in Russia and the Pale Settlement. Came over to America in the 20s and 30s, and then kind of went away for a few decades, only to be revived in the 70s and 80s. And Kurt was one of the key figures in that revival. He's been a scholar of the music for decades. He's written books. He's been part of multiple groups that are sort of key bands in the klezmer revival. And he's just a world-class musician. Annette, you are. And Annette is probably the only klezmer harp player in the world that I know of, at least. And what she's done that's so brilliant is adapted the harmonies and melodies of klezmer music to her instrument, which is no easy task. It's a very specific musical language, and she has done an incredible job of adapting it to the harp with results that are really beautiful. So I'm just so happy that we have you two here today, and I'm really looking forward to the concert. And without further ado, this is Kurt and Annette Roy.
We will stand just for these few seconds to greet you, because I know some of you are sitting behind rows of others and won't see us very well while we're playing. But here we are. We're delighted to be here. We will proceed with some music, and questions will be welcome at some point or other. And I'll have a few things to say, but what we'll have to decide collectively along the way is this more of a concert, or is this a lecture? Probably somewhere in between. And but we'll have to decide how heavy the balance is on the two sides of that scale. We're going to start by playing two little medleys of tunes. One of them is very Jewish, and the other one is not. And so it's going to be sort of a little collective quiz here. I want you, as you listen to these first two, each of these consists of two tunes, but there will be a little bit of pause in between, and then we'll play the second of these little sets of tunes. There are good reasons for thinking either way, but I'm curious, and this isn't a test, and this isn't proving your Jewishness or your knowledge. It's more like about what do you recognize and what do you perceive and why and how. Two short medleys, one of which, arguably, is a very Jewish set of tunes, and the other one, well, is it? Is it not? I don't know. And I'm curious to know, after we play these two, which of you think the first one or the second one, or vice versa, and so on. I could switch to flute or recorder and then really clutter the issue. But we're talking about the melodies themselves, not the instruments that they're played upon. For those of you who couldn't hear the man, you said, "Oh, well, the clarinet is a much more Jewish, much more klezmerish instrument." You know. For what it's worth, this is a clarinet too. It's just bigger and longer, and they come even longer and longer yet, and they get. That's a separate issue. So yeah, and again, yeah, you. The trilling, and which did you vote for? Number 1 or number 2? Number 1. But you noticed it was a more trilling kind of experience to hear that tune. And okay, well, okay. One more comment.
Yeah, the number 2 sounded to me more like Polish folk music, which I'm familiar with, or even Irish.
Even the man says that the second group sounded more like Polish folk music that he's familiar with, or perhaps even Irish. Do you want to extend that?
No.
You can't. Okay. He's got an accent that betrays that he has more than a passing familiarity with some of what he's referring to. Well, I will tell you, if you had, plain and simply, the first little pair of tunes is deeply Jewish. For reasons I won't go into. Again, I could spend one whole afternoon of that week-long seminar, and I would, believe me, I would enjoy doing so. But it's got the right yichus. And if you don't know what I mean, then ask someone next to you and find out. The second pair of tunes are a style of music that was embraced heavily, deeply, by East European Jews, and that interest continued into America. When those same populations immigrated to America, they brought with them a deep love of
gypsy music.
Well, yeah, but no, more particularly, can you extend your borders southward a little bit? If you would go out of Poland and Romania, there was a deep and abiding love of Romanian music in Yiddish culture near the turn of the 20th century and continuing for some time beyond. So much so that it was the Romanian Jewish tunes that tended to be used in American popular music as references. So there was a pop song in the teens called Lina from Palestina. It's a silly, stupid ditty of a tune, but it was enormously popular. And it refers to Lina from Palestina playing on her concertina. And it includes that little minor refrain from the end of the second tune, but that second tune is so deeply Romanian in its melodic structure and shape. But then you could make an argument and say, well, but you're playing it Jewish style, and we would have to admit that yes, we are, because if you heard Romanians play that very tune, it would feel very different. The joyfulness in it would be much more overt and untempered by any sense that the world is still broken, no matter how happy you are. And the sadness in it would be a kind of a gentle yearning sadness, whereas the sadness that you feel in a Jewish tune or in a Jewish interpretation has something else to it. It says, yes, things can be awful, but we are always hoping for something better. Hoping or trying for something better. At least this is the way it takes me. We haven't proven anything here, except that klezmer music is a mishmash of some very deeply Jewish elements and some that are borrowed, but in the borrowing they get translated in the same way that German got transformed into Yiddish language. Became something at the same time, the same thing, and yet completely different. I won't say more about it. I will just continue with some music here and think about whether you have questions about what it is we're doing or why we're doing it. Those are valid questions. that tune be and tell you about the next little bit.
No,
Klezmer music is...
what was that tune?
How many of you want to hear the answer to the question she's about to ask? Yeah, okay, let's give it a try.
Explain that tune.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll give you the simplest answer. It's in A minor, so we call it, it's in A minor, and it involves a technique on the harp known as a sandwich. You want to briefly exhibit the sandwich? She's already, it doesn't matter, it's the same ingredients. Okay, the left hand is playing some low tones, and then the right hand is doing some figures in the middle, and then the left hand reaches up and plays some high tones. And then the middle hand does the little thing. So the right hand is sandwiched between the left hand playing both lower and higher than it. And it's two different tunes with the one interpolated in the middle with some little sneaky playing around with musical modality that we did. So the whole thing in the key of A minor and with a musical sandwich and a harp sandwich is called A minore, the sandwich. And that might not tell you what you wanted to know, but that's the part that we find interesting. Yeah.
Is all klezmer music in minor key?
No. The lady asked, is all klezmer music in minor keys? And it absolutely is not. But a lot of it sounds minor even when it isn't. Because that's another day of our seminar explaining why that is. Klezmer music, plain and simply, is the wedding music of Yiddish culture. In the early days when we were exploring this music, we bent ourselves into all kinds of strange shapes, trying to figure out a way to portray it as something more than that, because to us it was something more than that. It was wonderful music that we were interested in. And think about it, if something else in our present day environment and culture would be described as being wedding music, you'd probably think, oh yeah, some of the pop tunes of the day, some of the Disney song hits and current things, and a few swing standards. The stuff that people expect to hear at a wedding reception or celebration. And as important and useful as that is, it's nothing of deep artistic interest and not even of deep historical interest. If you gathered a bunch of musicians to discuss the wedding music scene, you'd find they spent most of their time talking about finding parking places in a city and about the various loading docks of the hotels that they have to get their gear into and out from. And little of it would have to do with the artistry involved in the history of the music that they're playing. But with Yiddish culture, it's something different. The music was not dictated by the clients. The musicians were regarded as the bearers of a tradition. And that tradition was constantly being modified, of course. There are no 300 or 400-year-old tunes in the klezmer repertoire of today, and we have almost no way of knowing what was performed as klezmer music more than a couple hundred years ago. And the vast majority of what we do know is less than 200 years old. But the significance is in the name. Klezmer, meaning an instrument, in this case a human instrument, in both Yiddish and in Hebrew there are multiple words for song or music or melody. Zemer is a somewhat loaded one. It does not signify an insignificant tune. It signifies a tune of some religious meaning or content. And kli is to be understood in the same way as the word kli kodesh, meaning members of the clergy, vessels or instruments of divinity. So the music binds together elements. It had to always find a way of referring to something Jewish. It wasn't sufficient just to play a pop tune of the day or something that people expected or wanted to hear. It was understood that the klezmorim, who were instrumental musicians only, they were not vocalists, and were indignant at the suggestion that they would or could or should be vocalists, played a type of music that fused together elements of what was understood as Jewish music, borrowing heavily from liturgical music, cantorial music that is, in later times from Hassidic music, and so on and so forth. So we've put together a string of tunes that would be associated with an old world Jewish wedding, beginning with a solemn tune that was played to escort the groom and his family from their house through the streets, picking up other guests along the way and leading them to where the next important ceremony was to take place. And since a Jewish wedding in the old world was a week-long rather than a day-long or merely afternoon-long affair, there were many such rituals besides the actual ceremony itself. So there were many tunes like this. So we begin with one of these so-called street tunes, meaning a tune played to escort the guests to where something was about to happen, always followed by a dance tune, and in this case it's a tune that in the notations of the klezmer who wrote it down, it's an old man's tune. The meaning being, it shouldn't be played too fast. It has to be played at a moderately fast tempo that an old man can dance to. And then a tune called the Dobrogen that is played as a ceremonial tune at the tables of guests. So imagine that you've arrived along with all these people in this procession to the street. You're here for the next ceremony that's part of this wedding, and we come to your table because we know you've got deep pockets. Because the guests at the wedding would pay the klezmorim, would contribute money for the tunes that they would dance to, and for the honorific tunes played at a table, such as the one that we will play here. And these are divided into poor man's tunes and rich man's tunes, and believe me, the one that we've chosen is a rich man's tune. But we're not actually at a wedding, and you can just stay where you are and keep your money in your pockets. But just imagine that we came to your table, and all the guests heard that we played for you one of the better tunes. And in the time and era in which this music was played, it was quite clear to people which ones were the poor tunes and the middling tunes and the more elaborate and ritualized tunes. And we'll follow that, as it always must be, with another dance tune. And all of these tunes come from notations written down by people in Ukraine and Belarus about a century ago and collected in various archives, some of which have only become accessible in the last 10 years or so. I'll leave it at that, and we'll play our little thing we call a Zisa Chasene. How many people here feel they would understand a discussion of this kind in Yiddish? I see at least one hand, another. That's good. I once introduced an entire concert by Chicago Klezmer Ensemble in Yiddish, and I was kind of pleased with myself. I had struggled hard. I don't think I could do that today. I think I've forgotten almost half of what I once knew. But understanding the language is a vital part of understanding this music. And why am I mentioning this? Why not? Yeah. Because it's humid and the harpist's fingers are needing some drying off, and the clarinet player's lip needs a little bit of a rest. So, that performance was in Milwaukee some years ago, and my Yiddish suffers from also knowing a bit of German, and in my mind they're almost just two versions of one language, and I will make a slip. And I used the word sprechen, which is very specifically modern German. And a woman sitting right in front immediately said, "It's not Yiddish." And I paused, and she said, "Sprechen, it's German." And I said, "Oh yeah, I understand. For you," I said, Oh, now can I say it in English? I said, by you, it's German. By me, it's German too.
Thank you.
But by those Germans,
Thank you.
it's not. No, anyway, and I had to explain that they're along the coast of that lake, in the area extending from Chicago up through Milwaukee. You know, some people speak a Litvish version of Yiddish, some people speak a Polish German, some people speak what's called Galicianer, which is a kind of an amalgamation of a lot of southern dialects. And then there are some smaller little things. But along the lake shore, there's the people that settled in from Chicago up to Milwaukee formed sort of a mishmash of different Yiddish dialects that's known as Michiganer Yiddish. And she settled for that. So I don't know if that extends over here to your little lakes, but you can tell me later about it. The thing, two different sources. Not just at first, but at second and even third glance. Even if you knew nothing about music, you would look and just say, well, no, that one can't have anything to do with that one. It's only by playing it and discovering what the story is that this melody tells that you realize, oh, they are exactly the same tune, but notated in such different ways, emphasizing such divergent elements, all of which you have to somehow sublimate and get at the core. What is the story that it's telling to see what this melody is about? I held this tune at a distance thinking, well, it's a little bit heavy and deep, and how far can I go into this? And then a friend of ours, a former harp student of Annette's, asked us to play this very tune as the processional at her wedding a few years ago. And I knew as soon as she didn't even know the history of it. She said, oh, a friend told me this is the tune we should use for our processional. And she showed us a YouTube video of a group of Hassidic men singing this tune. More or less the way it's written in that publication by Chabad. But I knew about this complex history of it, and I dug out my notated sources, found a third one, and explored it, and we played it. And it was a long processional outdoors. We thought we'd play once or twice through the tune, and I think we at least 6 times went through this tune as these people made their way from the house through a long garden under some trees and over to the chuppah. And we got to know this tune very well that afternoon. And having already explored it in depth, and it has become a staple of our repertoire since. And yet, I still introduce it and play it, admitting that there's room for somebody to say, yeah, you know, the term cultural appropriation comes to mind. You know, something, a deep Hasidic tune. Never mind, it's a wonderful piece of music, contemplative. Like all good Jewish tunes, it tells a story. I cannot tell you what that story is. As a friend of mine said, if there were words for what music says, we wouldn't need music. But it does tell a story, and you can make up for yourself what that story might be. Anyway, it's tune number 1 in the Chabad book. It's tune number 123 in the collection of volume 8 from Idelson, and so on from there. most of what I've had to say about music so far has either been just about the klezmer music tradition in general, or specifically about its orientation to Eastern Europe and ceremonies there, social practices there. But of course, klezmorim came to America, and for a period of time, some of the same old wedding rituals survived, although, as you can imagine, they rather swiftly dwindled. Weddings became less and less elaborate affairs. People were more concerned with getting on with their lives and making money and getting on in the new world. And klezmer music eventually basically ceased to exist at all, except in certain little secluded enclaves of people who maintained certain old traditions. And then in a kind of an atrophied state. But before that happened, even as the wedding ceremony itself was becoming a less and less elaborate affair, there were professional musicians performing Jewish music on the radio and in theaters, and developing and honing and refining their craft. And one of these was a clarinetist who came originally from Ukraine in around 1920. He was known before then as Levy Summer, and in America he became famous as David Taras. Maybe you've heard the name. He made countless phonograph records, was in demand. When I performed with a group in Brooklyn years ago, giving an introduction sort of like this, I mentioned blah, blah, blah. I said, and there was this man named Dave Taras out of retirement to perform at a few concerts, one of which was the very first public use of the word klezmer music. There was nothing called klezmer music until 1978, when Dave Taras, then in his 80s, was presented in a concert with some younger musicians, and they billed it as traditional klezmer music. Don't ask what they called it before, but one old guy who met an even older guy in a little music shop in Brooklyn once said, he says, oh, I saw this little guy, and he took this little instrument you've never seen, and he played this old style Jewish music on it. And I wondered, where did he come from, and why was he playing this old kind of Romanian Jewish stuff? And I said, who are you, and what are you? And he says, the guy just looked, he says, he's a guy barely 5 feet tall. He says, he looked up at me, he said, "We play orientalische Musik." And then he very proudly got himself set and walked out the door, figuring nobody younger than him would ever want to have any more to do with it than that. But my friend wonders to this day who that old man was, but anyway. I'm going off on a tangent, but the point is, Dave Taras composed new tunes, and his name appears as not just the performer, but the composer on numerous phonograph records. And one of those has a tune on one side called Kiever Sher, Sher being one of the traditional old dances, a sort of a Jewish version of a thing like a square dance or quadrille. And the flip side of the record has a bad Romanized spelling. It looks like it says "Happy Birthday, Dinelli," but I'm pretty sure we can all agree that it's supposed to be Dinele. It's supposed to say "Happy Birthday, Dinele." We just call it Dinele. And we put the two tunes together and made our own little, I don't know what you call it, of them. But these are tunes that were composed here in America, leaving the old world behind, but still referring to it very, very strongly, and that's revealed in the title, referring to Kiev in the title of the one tune, which we now call Kiev, and we hope for the best for people there, I think, and hope that they can dance the Cher again at some point again there. That's another subject for another time. So here's this little medley of Taras. Oh, Dave Taras, in this resurrection of people interviewing him and talking to him, asked him, he says, how did you come up with the names for all of the tunes that you composed and recorded? He says, that was always trouble. I would go in the studio and we'd play the tunes, and to me it was a Freilich or it was a Cher, and they'd say, what's it called? And I wouldn't know, so I would give them relatives' names. So among the tunes that he recorded are Mazltovs Zelda, Simola's Bar Mitzvah, Richard's Bar Mitzvah, Sharon's Tanz, and what's a Tanz? Shifra tanzt. Not her dance, but it means Shifra dances. And so on and so forth. So it's not surprising that we have one called Happy Birthday Dinelli. But we'll agree it's Dinalet, right? Yeah. wrapping it up.